Hello and welcome to another Out of Spec Reviews video. This one is going to be a little bit interesting because we're not necessarily reviewing a car, I'm reviewing one of my cars. So that is my personal Tesla Model 3 Performance. We're creeping up on 100,000 miles. We'll have a whole deep dive, like 100,000 mile overview, costs, how the car is holding up, all of the rattles it's developed in a little bit. However, something very interesting has just happened, which was I received an email from Tesla and it said, here's how to pay for supercharging. I'm like, hold on, I haven't paid for supercharging in years. And I remember why. When I bought this car in September of 2019, it was the last day of the month, this 30th or 31st, whatever that last day is. And when I purchased the car, it came with 2 years of free supercharging provided by Tesla as a perk because I ordered it and took delivery in a very specific window. They had to move cars. They said, if you do it now, get the car. And that's actually what threw me over the edge to buy this car. Now, I want to see how much money have I actually saved by Tesla paying for my charging for the last 2 years. Now, for those of you who don't know, this is how you actually supercharge a Tesla. Supercharging is just another form of DC fast charging. So we use CCS CHAdeMO or the Tesla supercharger. I plug in here and it's going to do a handshake with the car. VIN recognition, you can see it's blinking blue right now. It's communicating. As soon as it goes to green, that means it'll start charging. And interestingly, 1B and 1A here are connected to one cabinet. This is what's called a version 2 supercharger. You can see it's authenticated and it's charging. The version 3 superchargers are 250 kilowatt DC fast chargers with thinner water-cooled cables. Pretty interesting stuff. But this is cool. So right now, we are not getting free supercharging from Tesla, but because you guys are so awesome and used our referral code, we actually have plenty of free charging. I don't think I'll ever be able to use enough of it. So don't ever ask for my referral code. I won't give it to you because we have enough. Also, they ended the program. As of this recording, there's no more referral program. I get to use all the miles I got, but I can't earn any more. I don't think Tesla was expecting to sell the cars to people like me driving across the country all the time, doing, again, almost 100,000 miles in 2 years. I don't even drive the car daily. This is just our road trip car. Driving around town, we have media vehicles. I have my electric smart car. We had our i3. This only gets driven on road trips. I do charge it at home when possible, but it's pretty much DC fast charge a large portion of time. So let's go crunch some numbers and see how much Tesla has paid me to drive my car over the last 2 years. We're just heading out of the Loveland, Colorado supercharging station, and I wanted to bring this up to your attention. When I was on the 2 years of free supercharging plan, this little section right here would show no recent charging. And now I noticed it's showing $0. Again, thank you for the referrals. We don't, again, if Tesla brings back their referral program, maybe we'll put the links back down again, but we really find some other friends who need the referrals. Now it just shows $0 indicated here. And so we'll just start eating into our miles. Now the miles are not equivalent to the miles of rated range added here. This is a new trick, by the way. You can now touch the percentage and get your rated miles or your percentage. We'll do a whole thing about battery degradation, all this stuff. I think this car's lost about 10 or 11% battery capacity over 95,581 miles, and pretty efficient over that time too, 329 watt-hour per mile, especially considering all of the track use this car has had, but of course it's mostly a road tripper. What it does is, I think it gives you, gosh, I can't remember, it's based on kilowatt hours. So basically, for 1,000 miles of free charging, you actually got more driving distance with a Model 3 than you would with a Model X, for example. And so it's actually rated for like a Model X. So when you get 1,000 miles of free charging, if you look at rated range, on the Model 3, it's more like 1,400 miles or 1,500 miles, which I always thought was a really neat program. It's kind of odd that Tesla's killed their referral program. I really feel like that's what built the enthusiast base to share the cars. You know, they don't have a marketing budget in the traditional sense. They spend their marketing dollars to help their owners share, you know, this love of the car, I guess. And yeah, I think it's kind of odd that there's no referral program. I really like the free charging thing, but it's gone now. And yeah, let me know what you guys think about them bringing the referral program back. They have a lot of free roadsters to give away based off of the last one. if they ever make them, they got to give, I don't know, it's got to be a few hundred of them away. And now it's time to take a look at the data. Now, I mentioned this use case is not so accurate to, well, everyone uses their car differently. So what I'm saying, this is just one data point, and it's a unique situation where Tesla gave us 2 years of free charging. But I think it's actually pretty interesting. I genuinely haven't looked at the results, so you and I will figure this out together. So I have my Tesla dashboard for my stuff. You can see my 2019 Tesla Model 3. There's my VIN. I don't know why people get so concerned about their VINs being public. You can just walk up on the street, find a license plate, get the VIN from it in a VIN checker. So that's always weird. Anyway, there's my car. If I go over to the charging thing on the left, let's take a look here and see what we have going on. So you can see all of the places this car has been. I guess there's 8 different pages. If I show 10 each, let's go 50 each. This is interesting. So it says there's 150,000 free supercharging miles remaining. I don't know how that's possible. I really don't share around our code. I think in some of our videos, and I just noticed it, we had our referral code like at the last thing in the description. And like, thank you guys for using it. I really appreciate it. And hopefully it helped you get some free charging. But yeah, not really sure what's going on there. So there's some Teslas. I thought there was a way we could look at a map, but I guess I'm wrong. Anyway, doesn't really matter so much. There was a way where you could see a map in here. Let's go to Teslafy. Now, you guys know Teslafy is one of my favorite services. I've featured them in some other videos. Not sponsored, never even spoken to the people over there, I don't think. It's just something I've run on all my cars. And essentially what it is it just pulls data constantly from your car and then logs it and saves everything. So anytime we have a Tesla in the family that gets added, I add Teslafy before we pull away from the dealership, from the delivery center. And let's go over here. Now we have our Teslafy stuff. So if I go to home, you can see what the car did today. For example, the car is at 56%, but it's a little bit cold, so it's really 55 indicated. You can see we're at the supercharger. That's where we shot the intro to this video. We charged for 6 minutes. That's how long it took to work to film the video. But if I go over to charges and I go to charge summary, here we go. Now it's going to compile all of the car's history that it's logged. Now, occasionally this car was driven and charged in areas where there was no cell service. And so for those specific instances, things weren't logged. But I think every supercharger's been logged. So essentially, this car has had roughly 15 megawatt hours added on AC and roughly 18 megawatt hours added of supercharging and another half a megawatt hour on CHAdeMO. So this car has had more DC charging than AC charging, even though I charge it at home at every opportunity. So yeah, you can see my max charging locations. For example, here in Fort Collins is the most. It's where we lived the longest when we had this car, but we've had other homes too. Our home in Raleigh, our home in Rocky Mount, the track, of course, where we would go every day. Alyssa's parents' house, my parents' house in Florida, they only have a 110 outlet, so it's just things like this. Now we get down to the supercharging stuff, which is exciting. So this car has been supercharged 578 times at 278 locations. So that's just, this car has been to almost 300 superchargers. That's pretty amazing. We have supercharged a total of 8 days, 17 hours, and 41 minutes continuous. My average time at a supercharger is 21 minutes. Pretty much adds up with what I always say. I think if it was a Taycan or maybe even new Model S, I would actually get that time down a little bit. But keep in mind, every time we're supercharging, it isn't necessarily to charge and hop. Sometimes we get food, we dilly-dally, we charge up more than needed, especially while it's free. Why not? Now, there are some considerations I take into when supercharging. The first is cold battery pack. We're coming into winter. You want to make sure your car's warm on the way to the supercharger. One of the things Tesla got absolutely right is anytime it's navigating to a supercharger, it will precondition the car, which means it burns excess heat in the motors. There's no dedicated battery heater in the Tesla. It uses the 2 motors and the dual motor, so it get about 7 kilowatts of waste heat, stuffs it right into the battery, and that's how it warms up, because with a warmer battery pack, it can accept more power. The other thing that I do with this car is I typically charge at low states of charge, plugging in from 0 to 10% usually on average, and then charging up to maybe 50, 55%. So most of this supercharging is not at very high state of charge. That's when actually eventually a lot of degradation can happen, and it really does stress the car fully supercharging it over and over. So these are things that I take into consideration when supercharging. Also, with more version 3 superchargers now out, the car, you don't really have to worry about pairing as much like we talked about in the beginning of the video, but not so bad. We've also got 521 kilowatt hours of CHAdeMO added to the battery pack, but this is just, opportunity charging. I don't think maybe more than once or twice I've actually needed a CHAdeMO. I just, if it's there and we're hanging out, we'll plug it in. Why not? So now we get into some extra details about this. So we've added, let's just say 19 kilowatt hours, because this is kilowatt hour added is what's gone to the battery pack, but used, which this doesn't indicate, would be heat loss, air conditioning pumps, everything like this. And I don't believe this number takes this into account. Let's just say a conservative 19 megawatt hours, because again, sometimes when it starts charging, it misses a little bit. I bet there is a bit of discrepancy in heat loss and stuff. Now what we need to do to get the cost is we're not going to go to every supercharging station and figure out the pricing at each location. And this has changed over the years too. Certain markets, so Tesla used to charge by minute. So in certain areas, it'd be like 12 cents a minute. If you're under 60 kilowatts, or 24 cents a minute if you're over 60 kilowatts. I think that's what Raleigh was. Back when I had my rear wheel drive Model 3, again, thanks for the referral miles, I never had to pay, but the pricing showed up. And this car, before, when I was on my free supercharging thing, it would never give me pricing in the screen. So I honestly didn't even know what these things were priced at on a consistent basis. Of course, I'd talk to a lot of you guys and you'd chat and we'd talk about charging costs. And I think it's just so cheap no matter how you do it compared to the installation costs of a supercharger. So that's the old pricing. Then Tesla tried to switch to charging by the kilowatt hour in every legal state that they could. Certain states have laws against reselling electricity, so you have to sell by time plugged in. This is why Electrify America sometimes sells by time instead of kilowatt hours. The best way to do it is sell by kilowatt hour, and there they were pricing them, I think, anywhere from 12 cents at the really cheap end to 35 cents per kilowatt hour, big spread. And even at 35 cents a kilowatt hour, trust me, they're losing money from demand charges. I don't see DC fast charging as a profitable business model, which I think is one of the most hindering factors to mass electric vehicle adoption. A lot of companies just want the stations in the ground to show you can get everywhere, but there's no incentive to build more because you just lose money. So look, we'll do a whole deep dive episode into this at some point with some charging experts. I already have that in the works to go through business cases, ways you can make money, situations such as FreeWire's charger that have a built-in battery pack so you don't get demand charges. There's a ton of interesting solutions, from offboard battery buffering, all this stuff. And there are some profitable cases, but you got to spend a lot of money up front. So what we're going to do is we're not going to go through like figuring out the exact cost, because that would just take forever. But we're going to get an average figure. On average, I would say supercharging is about 25 cents per kilowatt hour. Of course, some bill by time, some bill by kilowatt hour, but in different rates. I'm just guessing 25 cents. That seems to be the consensus online as well. That's a good average figure to go with, nice and easy. And we're assuming 19 megawatt hours just because of Teslafy not necessarily capping or sort of getting the beginning of the charging sessions. It always misses a couple kilowatt hours of charging session. And this is kilowatt hour added to the battery pack, not used from the charger. So this number, I don't believe, is calculating every kilowatt hour that's flown out of the supercharger handle in through the port. It's saying what's made it to the battery. Of course, there's losses. It's got to run air conditioning pumps, things like this. So my guess is around 19 megawatt hours, so 19,000 kilowatt hours. Based off of home electricity rates of, I think, 11 cents a kilowatt hour, somewhere around there, that's about $2,000. But again, this is supercharging, which is more expensive than home charging, as it should be. And we're looking at 25 cents a kilowatt hour. So if I do 19,000 kilowatt hours times 0.25, that's $4,750. Let's just say around $5,000 that I have saved in free supercharging. And that's taken me right around, I want to say 58,000 miles equivalent. Almost 60,000 miles of driving on this car has been powered by DC fast charging based off of this ratio. And That's pretty amazing. So if we do 60,000 miles, let's just compare it to gas costs really quick, because supercharging is more expensive than home charging. And you know, you can do your calculation on this based off of your specific car, but I'm just going to choose general numbers here just to get us a good picture. So if we drove a combustion vehicle 60,000 miles, and we would get 28 to 30 miles per gallon on like a pretty efficient normal car. Let's just say we did 30 miles to the gallon. So that's 2,000 gallons of fuel. And fuel right now for base is around $3.50 a gallon. Alyssa, what do you think it is? I don't even know. We don't drive we have the diesel Sprinter, but I don't really fill up combustion cars that often. Let's just go with $3.50 for regular, mid-grade. I don't know, make your own numbers. That's $7,000. So I've saved, you know, if you just pay for supercharging out the pump, you're saving about $2,000 over 60,000 miles. That's not that big of a difference, honestly. I'm not so convinced this whole electric car thing is like going to save you from financial ruin. Now, if you charged at home for that much of a difference, you know, if you do a lot of trips around town, you know, or you're an Uber or something, you always come back to your home charging, that disparity would be much larger. That would be like a $5,000 savings going from gas to electric over 60,000 miles. And that kind of starts to make sense. But for road trips, DC fast charging is expensive. And I think, honestly, my true opinion is if we were to pay what charging companies, you know, actually it costs them to put in the chargers and for them to become slightly profitable, I think road tripping an electric car would be more expensive than road tripping a combustion vehicle. We found this in Germany, driving quickly down the Autobahns and then pulling into Ionity at 79 cents a kilowatt hour, which is, you know, your rack rate right off the machine. It was significantly more expensive than driving a combustion vehicle. Where an electric vehicle becomes cheaper is for most people's driving is done at home, and that's where it works. So I have to say, with free supercharging, total no-brainer. I made the right choice getting this car, saved us a ton of money. And by the way, we still have free supercharging miles that will power that car for as long as we own it, I'm sure. And so that pretty much costs us nothing to drive. But I don't just go to the supercharger every day and I just plug it in at home at 11 cents a kilowatt hour. It's pretty much nothing. So there you have it. In 2 years, Tesla basically wrote me a check for $5,000 to drive this car across the country many times, and pretty pleased with that. Bought the car right, I think. Bought it right when Model 3 performances were pretty inexpensive too. I think overall cost on this car was in the $50,000 range. No, maybe I did get a tax credit too. I think it was when it was like half or halved again. So anyway, it worked out really well. I don't know what we're going to do with the car. I have an order in for my next electric vehicle. 100,000 miles. This is the longest I've really kept a car, I think, aside from my first car, like ever. So yeah, I'm not sure what's going to happen. We might keep it. It's our airport shuttle. It's our road tripping car right now. We'll have more road trips with it coming on Out of Spec Motoring. We'll get the dogs back in it. We'll do more road trips. Everyone loves them. And yeah, we'll have, of course, have a full 100,000 mile report. That's going to be like an hour-long video going through squeaks, rattles, performance. We'll do 0 to 60, see if it's slower than the day that we got it. I did a whole bunch of stuff when the car was brand new so that we can compare the results to now on the same car. It'll be pretty interesting. Thanks so much for tuning in. $5,000 in my pocket. Thanks to Tesla for running that promotion right when I got the car. It actually, like I mentioned, pulled me over the edge to go from Model 3 long-range rear-wheel drive to the Performance, and now that gap was just closed $5,000 more. We'll see you on the next video. Bye-bye.